So Richie, let's start by looking back. How do you reflect on this season as a whole? Were there any standout moments or any lessons that are going to help shape next season?
Yeah, there's plenty. I suppose looking back at the season, it's a mixture of probably two things. A little bit disappointed with some of the positions that we got ourselves into, and we weren't quite able to finish off some of those games. Frustrated a little bit with those games, and also with our ability, I suppose, to keep guys fit and get guys on the pitch. It's through no fault of anybody in particular, but our squad over the course of the season was greatly reduced in relation to selection, which means the competition for places isn't as fierce as we would like it to be, and will be hopefully going forward.
We'll look back to the last game of the season against Edinburgh. It's not exactly how we wanted the season to end. How do you reflect on that, and what are the key takeaways for this group?
I think you look back and you go, coming into the last three games, we were in a situation where we knew if we won two, we'd probably qualify. The great start against Sharks, to go 19-0 up at half time but not to score in the second half, is an area that we need to have a really close look at and try and examine the reasons why that's happened. I suppose going away in your final two matches, one to Munster, when they've a lot, like ourselves, have a lot riding on it in the game up till half time, and then that game gets away from us in the second half as well. And I suppose not a brilliant start against Edinburgh, but then played really well for a period of time just before half time to get back to 12-all. And then the games just sort of start spiralling away from us. And late on the second half, they had so much at that stage, so much to play for, trying to get into the top eight. Unfortunately, we weren't in that same position, and we're disappointed with sort of how that scoreline blew out to 47-17. It's unacceptable, really.
It's that time of the year and we've got several players moving on. How do you reflect on their contribution to the province, and how does their departure shape this squad going forward?
Yeah, I suppose it's a big part of any rugby club is people moving on at the end of the season. We've got some big names moving on in the likes of John Cooney. Al O'Connor has been a massive part of this. Andy Warwick, Matty Ray, massive part of this club over the last number of years. So to lose those guys is disappointing, but it's probably the way professional rugby goes now, in relation to players moving on, players retiring, and so on. We'd wish them lads all the best, and for us going forward, we've obviously got a couple of new players coming in, which will add to our environment as well. And it's really important that we back the youth that is within the squad. We've seen that this year in relation to what they've produced, and a year older with that experience under their belt will really help those guys.
So let's talk about those new arrivals, starting with Sam Crean and Rory Maguire. They're two young props with a lot of real potential. What are you hoping they're going to bring into this mix?
Yeah, if you take Sam first, he's coming from Saracens. He's sitting in behind two international props in the Saracens ranks at the moment. So he's coming over. He was here for a number of weeks. I think it was 3 or 4 weeks as injury cover, played in 2 games, and we were really impressed with what we saw. Not the biggest prop in the world, but scrummaging wise, he's very strong, and a decent ball player, well able to carry, well able to pass. So he's going to be a good character to have in and around the changing room as well. Rory is coming from the same year as Scott Wilson. Both of them sort of were the tight heads in an Irish under-20s group that won a Grand Slam. Competition for Scotty, competition for Brian and for Tom O'Toole is what we need in order to get the best out of the whole lot of them. Rory will definitely add to that, sort of weighing in and around 125, 128 kilos, about 6'2". So he's a big boy. He's a big ball carrying forward as well. At 22 years of age, he's still got, he hasn't even reached his prime yet. He's growing into that. So he's played a number of times for Leinster over the course of the season. So we're delighted to have him up as well.
We've also added Augustus from Northampton Saints, who's coming in with a lot of valuable experience. How do you see him fitting into the squad?
Jono will be a really important player for us. Exactly what you see when you watch him, massive big ball carrying forward, gives you probably an idea of how we want to play the game, you know, as we progress. But a real focal point in people's attack. Defensively, he tends to gather players around them, so that'll be really a really big plus for us going forward. He's also only 26, just recently announced in an extended Springbok squad, so it gives you an idea of the calibre of player we're getting. He's although he isn't an international yet, but he's right up there at international quality, coming off the back of some really good work with Northampton.
And there's a new name that's sure to get a lot of fans talking. We've got Angus Bell joining us, a major signing from Australia. What kind of impact do you see him having on and off the field within the squad?
Yeah, again, it's another international class forward coming into the building. You know, Angus will have the experience of playing against the Lions under his belt at that stage. We'll see him sort of come in early December. For the rest of the season. So, you know, in relation to some of those young props that we have in the building, Angus isn't old, but he has a bit of experience around him. You know, so him sort of being able to, I suppose, show us a different way, you know, of how the guys go around their business on a daily basis. Again, he's a massive ball carrying forward, one of the most effective loose head props in Super Rugby, and at international level we've seen in the past how effective he is. So, you know, adding both Jono and Angus as, you know, our sort of marquee signings as such, will really help us strengthen up in that pack, as well as the likes of Rory and Sam coming in underneath them.
There's a clear sense of transition heading into next season. How is your new coaching team structured to support this new phase of development?
Yeah, well, obviously there's been changes over a longer period than just what's happening now. Our AP, our athletic performance department, Sam Dodge came in at the start of last year. He's had a whole new rejig of staff, so there's 4 new staff members in there. With Sam, so that's settled in now, and guys know exactly where they're going, it's been good, and it's been a breath of fresh air, I suppose, for the players in relation to preparation to play. Then Mark Sexton obviously comes in and will work on the attack side of the ball. Dan Soper will come to that into a transition coach role, which will help with some of these young players and us being able to get a little bit more in depth in relation to player development programs and exactly what the guys need to in order to be able to accelerate their learning to close the gap between them and the senior pros that we're playing against. But you know, in relation to the coaching team, it's probably the first time, you know, that we've settled down and we know exactly how we are going forward.
With the squad size reducing from 46 to 43 next season, how do you anticipate the change influencing the opportunities for the younger players? Yeah,
obviously we're down 3 players in our senior squad. We've got a number of players then obviously in the academy as well. So, you know, going down to 43 isn't a huge impact on our team. You know, we just have to make sure that, you know, in the background that we're doing the right things to make sure that as many of those players are available for selection on a weekly basis. It's really important. But as for the academy players coming up through, I think this year, we used, it was 51 players, and 13 new caps. We had 5 guys play from the academy. So there's been plenty of opportunity in that regard, and we want to go on the same. And, you know, we want to reward guys who are doing really well in training with opportunity to pull on the white jersey and go out and play for us.
And just as you mentioned, there's a lot of young talent this season. We got Jack, Villy, Charlie Irvine. They've all made their first caps and made an impact on the squad. What have you made about their progression and how well they've done this season?
Yeah, I think some of those guys have had opportunity before maybe than they were expecting. But they've all come in and added to the environment. They've done really well through their training. They've taken everything in their stride, and it's really important that when they are put in there, is that when they come back out of the team, that we're giving them strong feedback in order to try and make them better for the next time. They're all chomping at the bit. There's another group of players, sort of, who, for one reason or another, some of them through injury, didn't get an opportunity to play, which is exciting going forward. Like from the academy, guys like Lucas Kenny, Ethan Graham have done well towards the back end of the season. Bryn Ward has done well through his 20s career, and probably would have got an opportunity, except for a broken leg. You know what I mean? So those guys, along with Tom Brigg and Joe Hopes and others, they'll all very much feature next year. I'm not saying they'll play, but they'll all be in and around our environment and working to try and get their first caps or get back out there.
So looking ahead to next season, what is the style of play that you'd like this team to play, and what are some key areas that you'd like to sharpen up on?
Well, the style of play is I think we've seen it throughout the year in fits and starts. Probably my biggest thing would be to try and build the consistency in our performances, and what has to go in underneath, the foundation that has to go in underneath in order to build that consistency. We want to be a team who play quick. We want to be a team that are hard to anticipate what they're going to do. In relation to that, you've got to be able to have a kicking game. You've got to be able to have a passing game. You've got to be able to have a running game, and that's where we are at the moment. We're trying to build that in the background. There's a lot of massive amount of work that's gone into this season where, when we look at the league results and where we finished, the league table doesn't lie. We haven't been good enough. We've been in a situation where in 5 games we've lost by less than a score. In 10 games we've scored 3 tries. You know what I mean? So one more try in even half of those games would have given us a chance to qualify at the end of the season. So those type of things are things that are niggling away, I suppose, at me in the background and at the players. And we got to go into pre-season, have a really good pre-season with a clear plan coming out on the other side of that in order to be better next year. Because Ulster not qualifying is a dent in where we want to be. We want to be at the top end of the competition, competing in the playoff places.
And just on the Challenge Cup, we obviously have that next season. It's not entirely where we want to be, but what opportunity does that present for this group?
Yeah, again, it's the Challenge Cup next year is going to be a massive competition, because the standard of teams that are in that this year or next year are going to be really good. So to try and come through that and have a cup run, and try and win that would be something that we would look at as a target for us going forward. The other thing is over the course of the year, we've played, up to do a rugby rankings thing where we've played 3 of the top 5 teams in the world, and we've played them 5 times. You know what I mean? 3 of those teams on 5 occasions. So we're not quite at that level at this moment in time, but this Challenge Cup gives us an opportunity to pitch ourselves at a really good level and gives us something to go after.
So after the summer break and looking into pre-season, what is it that you're most looking forward to kind of getting stuck in again? It's a funny one, because when things don't go well, you just want to get back to work and get going again. And I think, from our point of view,
it's really important that we take a break and we try and refresh. So this week coming, we have a review process going on, and in that review process, we need to, name the challenges that we've had this year, and then try and find a way of addressing it and closing the gap on some of the other teams that we play against. So at the start of the season next year, it'll be all about closing those gaps. It'll be all about building confidence within the squad, making sure that people realise within our group what it means to play for Ulster, who you represent, as a province, but also as a team, and how we want to be portrayed within the league and also within our local community. So we've a lot of work to do, but everyone that's here is willing to roll the sleeves up and get stuck in, and we're looking forward to getting going next year.
And finally, what message would you like to share with the fans as we kind of get underway this next stage?
I suppose there's a couple of sides to it. One is, we're disappointed with what we've produced this year, and we feel, in some ways we've let people down. The next thing is that no matter what has happened, the way that you've stuck with the team is been massively uplifting. I've got plenty of messages over the last couple of days about, just keep going. We think you're going on the right track, and we believe inside that we are going on the right track. So those probably two things are what I'd like to say to the fans is, stick with us. It's not easy at the moment, but we're definitely moving in the right direction.